What's up, everyone out there? And this is another edition of the Page Turner. I'm your host, Nate Turner, and I am here so that we can write your next chapter together. So, earlier today, I got on and I did a live, and in a live, I was sort of talking about Warren Buffett. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, actually, if you were living under a rock, you wouldn't know who Warren Buffett is, but I'm sure you've at least heard the name, right? So I was talking earlier today about Warren Buffett, and the reason I was talking about he's kind of gotten a lot of criticism, I guess, with the way that markets have been, and people are kind of looking at the moves that he's making. But all in all, Warren Buffett, he's a guy that I think personally really knows what he's doing as far as financial markets are concerned, because his bank account can kind of speak for itself. So just wanted to jump in and just kind of share some things that I've seen. So what Warren Buffett did in the last few days or so, he actually made a decision to take his stakes out of some of the big name banks. Now, if you know what Warren Buffett has done over the years, he really likes banks. When the banks were just really in trouble the last several years, like some years ago, he was one of the ones that actually took advantage of that time frame and supported the banks as they were going through those difficult times. So for Warren Buffett the other day to really decide to take his major stakes out of the big name banks, because he's literally invested in just about every one of the big name ones, so JP Morgan, it is PNC. There is, what's the other one? JP Morgan, PNC, there's Wells Fargo. So just to name a few, it was escaping me, but just to name a few, those big name banks. And actually, many of those, especially Wells Fargo and JP Morgan, have really lost like over $1 billion in market cap over the last, I say since March or so, or just year over year. So, if you look at what Warren Buffett is done, though, taking his stakes out of the banks, and the one move that he did make was that he invested in a gold company. So that's kind of telling, just to say something about what he's doing, because now he's sort of shifted, and because the banks are looking like they're going to be in some trouble, then he's actually reducing his stakes in those big name banks. But the one thing that I wanted to key in on is what Warren Buffett did not do, and that is he did not change his stake in Apple. Now, for any of you that have been at least following along or paying attention, what do I have here? So I talked about JP Morgan, Wells Fargo. Bank of America could be added in there. They've all lost over 100 billion in market cap. But in contrast, the tech companies, right? You got Amazon market cap year to date is up over 500 million. You got Apple up over 500 billion, and Apple up 300 billion. And even Tesla has been making a lot of big moves. They're up over 200 billion. And so, and actually, just a side note on Tesla, people forget they're not just electric cars. They have a lot more things that they're invested in. We talk about space, we talk about solar panels, we talk about all those different things that they're invested in. So when you see that and you say, oh man, they're selling a lot of electric cars, well, they got a lot more going than that. So back to my talk about Apple. Now, if anybody was paying attention a few weeks ago, maybe not a week ago, but probably like a week or so ago, I actually talked about Apple's 4-for-1 stock split. And at that time, I'm really talking to you about something that is really something to, really take a look at. So Warren Buffett, he did not change his shares, his stake in Apple. But think about this now. I said, well, if he didn't change his share, what kind of stake does he have in Apple? And so he has over 245 million shares of Apple. And so as I discussed this earlier, I was basically saying, if you have 245 million shares of Apple, you multiply that by Apple being right now currently around about $450 a share, then that means that literally his stake in Apple is around $110 billion. And that's just Apple alone. Now you think about all the other things that he's invested in, but just his stake in Apple alone is $110 billion. Now that's pretty good. So Apple's doing a 4-for-1 stock split, which will mean that he'll now have 3 additional shares to that one share that he has. So, basically he'll have four shares for every one share, that he currently has. So that's going to be big because it'll basically just multiply the number of shares he has. So that's going to be big. And I just want you all to really get that, though, because when we look at investments and we look at what we're doing and how we're benefiting from these times, and we think that, okay, well, the market's really bad and things are really going down and things are this. No, Warren Buffett, I was saying earlier that this book, The Intelligent Investor, I haven't even read this book, but I happened to hear him talking about it, Warren Buffett, on just an interview that he was doing. And he kept saying, this is a great book. And I know that it's an old book, so it's been around for a while. And I haven't really read it, but I'm like, well, why is he saying it's, a good book? Well, hey, look, if he says it's a good book, I'm really going to take a look at it just so that I can see what's in the book for myself. So definitely plan on reading that. And but just really think about what's really going on in the market. There's a lot of things that are going on in market. You really got to take the emotions out of it, right? You think about somebody like Buffett, he's going to take the emotions out of these decisions because he's not one to not have the facts. I mean, he's one of those guys where he's going to get up every morning and spend the whole day, maybe even, looking at stocks from like 100 years ago, right? I mean, you take something like Ford. Warren Buffett would know what Ford stock was doing back in the 1950s and 60s because he's paying attention to know what the market was during that time frame, how Ford reacted or responded to the market during that time frame, and how he expects them to respond during this time frame. So he's taking all of those things into consideration, and then he's making those financial decisions. So we got to remember, when we talk about financial markets, we got to take the emotion out of it. So keep that in mind as well. So all in all, when we talk about the moves that he's making, we really want to pay attention to what's going on, how those things are progressing, and what markets are doing, so that we can benefit, because we have to be paying attention to what's going on in these financial markets so that we can make adjustments. I talked about this in another video that I did as far as 401k, and I talk about making adjustments in those investments that we have. So you want to take a look at that one as well as the Apple one, and just really kind of get caught up on some of the things that I've talked about in the past there. So just wanted to hop on and just, really get alive and get on a podcast and really share this in this format, just to kind of get folks aware. I mean, just so that you're aware. So you can't say, I really didn't know what was going on, because look, Nate told you what was going on. I may not have all the answers, but you can start with what I told you, do your research, and then figure out what you want to do yourself. As always, I'm not a financial advisor. You definitely want to talk to a financial advisor to really just get a sense on what advice they would have for you and your investments and things like that. This is strictly for your entertainment, just to share some few things with you so that you're aware of what's going on. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and just get on off here, but definitely keep up with what's going on in the markets, keep up with what's going on in your pockets, folks. And then I tell you, you all have a great day, and we'll talk to you again soon. This is Nate Turner with your edition of the Page Turner, here to help you write your next chapter together. Let's go.